Have a ton to talk about. There's a lot to look at in the papers really quickly. The Wall Street Journal editorial page, it's the Republicans in the House may be trying to keep this from the Republicans in the Senate. And let's just make sure we say here, this isn't a Democrat versus Republican thing. This is an intramural battle between House Republicans, some House Republicans. Okay, maybe one or two House Republicans, because the rest want this report out, and the Senate. And the Wall Street Journal editorial page says the Senate has every right to demand to see the report on Mr. Gates before confirming his nomination as President-elect Trump's next Attorney General, even without the House report. The Senate could call the same witnesses to testify, and they will. And as Senator John Cornyn suggested this week, in order to do our job, we need to get access to all the information, but also to protect the president against any surprises that might damage his administration. Again, this isn't just about the Justice Department. This isn't just about America. Selfishly, it should be for Donald Trump as well, because this will be a disaster. And as the Wall Street Journal, it is a disaster. As the Wall Street Journal editorial page says, the Senate would be justified in sticking to that line, whatever the political pressures that Mr. Trump might bring to bear for a speedy confirmation on Gates. And Willie, the news just keeps coming out. I mean, again, you got so many layers of problems here. He's not qualified. Nobody thinks he's qualified. Everybody's going, well, let's see this report before we... Everybody knows he's not qualified for this job. Everybody knows he doesn't play well with others. The House Republican members can't stand him. I think Ari Melber has some clips we're going to play later on about all the nasty things he said about Republican senators. Then on top of that, you have sworn testimony that he had sex with a 17-year-old girl at a drug-fueled orgy under oath. These people would be sent to jail if they were lying. And just, one after another. I can see by the way you're looking right now that Alex is saying, why doesn't Joe let him read the story?
No.
We're going
to find you the Ari Melber clip. We're going to do that later because he did put together a compilation.
But anyway, the thing is, like, people are going, well, we're still going to get this, that, and other before we talk. I love the intro, what the senator said. Well, if these allegations are true, then he can't. He knows they're true. He knows they're true.
And
everybody knows they're true based on sworn testimony where people would have been sent to jail if they were lying.
Senator Mullen, who you just heard from there, he is the one who famously said that Matt Gaetz would describe how he would crush up ED medication and chase it with power drinks so he could, have a longer evening. So these guys, Richard,
that doesn't happen in
Good Morning America.
Does CFR have drug-fueled
Forgive me. I wandered down that path and realized there was no turning back. But that's what he said. But again, as you say, these are Republicans, John, who do not miss a chance to find a microphone to criticize Matt Gaetz. It's personal on many levels, but also, in this case, they're saying this report is crushing. This report would eliminate if one or two details in the report were true, this would end anyone else's nomination or potential nomination. So we will see how much more capital Donald Trump wants to spend. Again, he's pushing these. How far can I push these guys and these women in the Republican Party? And at the moment, on Matt Gaetz, at least, they seem to be saying Matt Gaetz is the line for us.
Yeah, even before this nomination, it was well known, the House and Senate, just how much fellow Republicans despised Matt Gaetz. And in a process like this, you need some friends. He doesn't really have any. J.D. Vance did take him around the Hill yesterday. They had some meetings with senators, but they were notably non-committal to his nomination. And you're right. I mean, Trump is trying to push this, and he's got a number of controversial picks, but it seems like the Senate is standing up against this one. Now, as we'll get into, the House Ethics Committee, Republicans on the committee voted to block the release of this report yesterday, but there is a widely held belief it will see the light of day. And we heard from the Senate yesterday, including from Republicans in the Senate, saying we need to see that. So that report will emerge. But even were it not, there is serious questions about his qualifications, serious questions about his character, and Trump is trying to push his allies as far as he can in the upper chamber here. But we're seeing some real resistance Republicans here. I'm told for last night that Gates' nomination deeply in doubt.
Well, and again, the Wall Street Journal editorial page brings up a great point. Even if they don't release it in the House, it gets worse for him because they bring the witnesses live to Capitol Hill. So this meltdown, can occur on live television with live witnesses. Nobody should want that to happen in the Trump administration. And I doubt the AG nominee would want that to happen. I'm not exactly sure what this stance is. Like, if they're going to try a recess appointment and start a constitutional crisis, they go that way. But why trot this around? This ends badly any way you cut it.
I think we also are just missing what this is about at the end of the day. You had a full-field FBI background investigation. When I had one and they're going back to your hometown and talking to the preacher and checking with everyone, it's not because they care about your morality.
Right.
They care about if your morality leads you to become compromised. And this is about not wanting a sex addict, not wanting a drug addict to have control of the nation's top secrets at the end of the day. And so that's why this is kind of a little bit important, and it's not about morality at the end of the day.
Yeah, and to your point, Joe, Senator Mike Rounds, Republican again of South Dakota, said, all right, if you don't release the report, we can relive this whole thing in a hearing. We'll do our own investigation. Yeah. This position as Attorney General is too important. So we'll see where this ends. The document obtained by the New York Times shows federal investigators have traced payments between Matt Gaetz and women who say they were paid by the former congressman to have sex with them. According to the Times, the document shows how Gaetz and a friend, quote, sent thousands of dollars through Venmo to dozens of people who claim to be involved in sex parties from 2017 to 2020. Those people have reportedly testified to federal and congressional investigators. Sources familiar with the case tell the Times among those who received payments was a woman who was 17 years old when she attended one of those parties. The Times reports the document, which uses thumbnail photos of Gaetz as well as various women and men to show how payments flowed between them, was assembled when the Justice Department was investigating
That
Gaetz.
looks awfully complicated.
That's a lot of
lines. There are a lot of lines right there. A lot of activity on Venmo.
That's Russell Crowe and A Beautiful Mind level lines on a chart, though. Although the DOJ declined to file charges, the Times reports the House Ethics Committee was given a copy. The chart does not show what the payments were for. NBC News has not been able to independently verify that document. A lawyer for two women who testified that Gaetz hired them for sex says their payments totaled about $10,000 and that they were typically given about $200 to $500 for each encounter. In a statement to the Times, the communications director for President-elect Trump claimed the material was classified and purposely leaked to smear Gaetz. According to the Times, there are no classified markings on the document. No reason there would be. Gaetz has declined all allegations of sexual misconduct.
Yeah, that's piling up there. And again, here's the thing. You know, right now, the House Speaker and others are trying to be clever, going, oh, we're not going to release the report. Actually releasing the report would be better than reliving it on the Hill in a Senate committee with everybody seeing it. And Jackie, I mean, that actually would be the worst case scenario for the incoming president, the worst case scenario for Republican supporters. You talk about a needless distraction, which the Wall Street Journal has talked about. Karl Rove yesterday talked about how the first week of nominations went well, and then he came to Gaetz, which I think he said was a colossally bad selection. Like, again, you wonder how much scar tissue they're going to want to take on over this with the New York Post, the Wall Street Journal editorial page, Republican senators all saying this guy is not fit to be Attorney General.
Whether or not Matt Gaetz or Republicans want this report to come out, details of it and perhaps the most lurid and salacious details of it are going to inevitably come out because of exactly what you just laid out. The women, the witnesses, some of the women who were previously 17 years old when they had an encounter, a sexual encounter with Matt Gaetz, they are going to be called as witnesses to testify before the committee, although their lawyers have told us extensively over the past 2 weeks that they really want to avoid doing so. And I think that's why we're seeing them sort of make this these public appearances over the past few days to lay out some of the allegations that their clients have made behind closed doors. And now, while we didn't confirm that document that was obtained by the New York Times, which really shows the breadth of the investigation in a way that we haven't seen before, that was ultimately cleared and dropped by the Justice Department 2 years ago in 2022, they ultimately decided that the witnesses, there were some credibility issues with the witnesses and didn't pursue charges against Gaetz. We did obtain exhibits that were shown to the House Ethics Committee and provided to the Justice Department as a part of that investigation that showed some of the Venmos and PayPal requests and payments that were given to some of these women who testified that they were paid for sex by Matt Gaetz. This is outside of the allegations of sex trafficking, of Matt Gaetz having a sexual encounter with a minor. There were 27 different PayPal payments and Venmo payments that were shown in these exhibits that totaled nearly $10,000. The notes next to those payments were sort of a variety of descriptions ranging from, love you to gifts to cartridges. But in the past 2 days, when we've been in conversations with the lawyers for these clients, they have been very clear that Gaetz was paying them at sometimes for sex and also to have sex with other people at these drug-fueled sex parties.